Hi, my name is John Carrington. I'm principal harpist of the Auburn Symphony, and it is my pleasure to introduce Symphony Sunday this week, where we will be performing. Well, I shouldn't say we were performing. You'll be hearing a performance of the orchestra from April of 2008 of Beatrix Smetana's The Moldau, conducted by Stuart Kershaw. Smetana wrote this in 1874 when he was 50 years old, and he had just lost his hearing and was deaf. He lived another 10 years. This was part of a larger symphonic poem work called Ma Vlast, or My Country. This is the most famous second movement, the Moldau, referring to the river that runs through Bohemia, or as it came to be known after World War I, the Czech Republic. So it was a form of nationalistic music where at this time period in music, composers were starting to embrace and espouse the musical inspiration from their own country. They weren't looking elsewhere to Beethoven in the German line or maybe Mozart and Salzburg, but they started to recognize that they had strengths and something to offer within their very own country with their folk music, harmonizations, dance rhythms, things that were specific to their homeland. And so this kind of became a time in music where each country composers emerged that embraced their own people's music. Also, what I like about this piece is that it's programmatic. Smetana wrote it with a specific storyline in mind, which he wrote down. And so we know that it starts with flute and harp and clarinet. The harp just plays the opening note. There's also violin pizzicatos, but it's really representing the origins of the Moldau River high up in the mountains of Bohemia, where they just begin. Their origins is two small rivulets. So you hear the flute and the clarinet represented in those two rivulets that entwine, and the string pizzicatos kind of becoming a shimmer and a rippling figure, and this gets interwoven and kind of sparkles on the surface, and the currents continue to strengthen into a mighty river that flows through Bohemia's valleys. At this point, the key goes from E minor to E major, and when it's going through the forest you hear hunting calls, which are portrayed by the French horns and trumpets, of course. The river continues winding down to pasture lands where there is a wedding feast going on and dancing. So it's another way to introduce the Czech folk music. Perhaps this is a polka, and you'll hear this dance section go on for a while. Then things turn to nighttime, and this is where the harp has a little bit more to be featured because it is representing water nymphs in the moonlight. And this is also with strings and flute. Anytime like we get a harp part in programmatic music, we're usually representing water or wind or some sort of ethereal emotion. So this is kind of the beginning of orchestra harp writing. Maybe it's stereotypical today, but we love it when composers include us in an effective part, which this is one. So you'll hear the river continue in torrents and rapids. It gets agitated. There's cymbal crashes. You can hear the speed of the river through the dynamics, through the tempo and speed, from how many instruments are joining together, and it finally majestically passes through the city of Prague, and you'll hear that full majestic celebration. So thank you for supporting the Auburn Symphony, and I hope you enjoy today's musical journey down the Moldau River.